Before you is the ancient city, the dwarven mine of Kier. It is guarded by one exit and one entrance only. There is a large door at this entrance, magnificent and enchanted by powerful magic that you see no real spell could undo.
Is it locked?
Yeah, it's locked. Yeah, there's a magnificent, well-crafted dwarvish lock in the center of the door.
Cool. I pick the lock.
Sure, yeah, you can go ahead. You can try and lock pick it, but
So that is a 35.
a what?
Yeah, a 35.
Okay then. Well, I guess the door opens then. That's the first part of the mine finished with.
Well, that was easy.
Hello and welcome to Grit and Glory, the brand new TTRPG that is ready to upgrade your gaming experience. I have great news. The Kickstarter for Grit and Glory, for this project to be actually, become a reality, it's live right now. It's from the 24th of September until the 24th of October. So go back it ASAP. But, you're here now. You might as well give us a little like, comment and subscribe. Just help appease the YouTube algorithm, grow the channel a little bit so we can get more amazing people like you on board. But that's enough with the very shameful plugging. On with the video. So that is basically how D&D handles lockpicking pretty much every single time. You're gonna struggle to find a way to do it in the game that isn't just saying, hey, is that door locked? Yes. Can I roll to unlock it? Yes, roll. And that's it. Just, is it high? Is it low? There's no tactical strategy, nothing, right? And I know that, to be honest, there's quite a lot of D&D that you could say works exactly the same, rolling for an attack, rolling for a save against a spell, rolling to haggle for an item. But that's not a good defense for this. It's actually more of an indictment of the rest of the system. But don't worry, I'm not going to tear apart the entirety of D&D today, at least not for now. All I'm going to focus on today is lockpicking. At least for now. So what exactly is wrong with this method for lockpicking specifically? I mean, it technically does work. You have the chance of succeeding and failing. Your character has a bonus, so there is skill to it in the character's sense, but it doesn't really feel like lockpicking, so to speak. I mean, let's take a haggling, for example. That works the exact same way, but you actually get to chat with the DM. You do to them, and you get to haggle on your character's behalf. You at least get to feel like you're part of the situation, and it feels different from just any other dice roll. But there's no real thing like that for lockpicking in D&D. And it's not like we can't do that. There's definitely ways to make lockpicking feel more intricate and delicate and precise, the way it should feel. Let's look at Skyrim, for example. I'm sure all of you thought of that when you were picking on the lockpicking video, but that's because lockpicking in that game is so fun. It was one of my favorite parts of the game. It still is, to be completely honest. And that game alone proves that lockpicking doesn't have to be boring and forgettable or monotonous. We can actually make it fun and interesting. So how do we transfer that feeling from a video game to the game table? I mean, it's not like there's a virtual world where you can lockpick, and we don't want to be bringing in real locks for you to actually have to pick yourself. But what other method is there? Well, we have created our own method here. So the first thing that happens is the DM decides on how difficult the lock actually is. For most standard locks, it will be a D20, but they might make it more difficult. Maybe it's a super magical lock, in which case you use a higher number. But if it's a weaker, crappier lock, then you use a lower dice, like a D12, a D10. And then they decide how many layers the lock has. This is usually between 2 and 5, but it can be however many the GM wants. But what does all of that actually mean? Well, let me explain. So when someone begins to pick a lock, the GM can select or randomize the unlock number. This is a number between 1 and however high the dice is. So for a standard lock, that's between 1 and 20. The lock picker then actually rolls the dice that is associated with the lock, and the GM tells them if they got one of these 4 different results. So number 1 is they got it spot on. They rolled the exact right number, which means the door is unlocked or that layer is unlocked. Then the next best option is they got it very near. This means that the unlock number is within 1 of the number they rolled. Then the next best is they got it near, which means that the unlock number is within 5 of the number they rolled. And finally, there is far, which means that the unlock number is 6 or more away from the number that they rolled. So obviously, like I said, if someone gets it spot on, then they just pick that number instantly. That's a bit of luck, which can always happen and is kind of the basis for TTRPG games. But if they get any one of the other 3s, then the lock picker has a choice. They can either choose to guess the number or they can choose to roll again. Now, if they roll again, the number doesn't change. So they can use the information from both rolls to triangulate the position. The thing is though, they can't do this forever. The number of rerolls you get is determined by your skills and your proficiency in Thieves tools and all of this kind of stuff. So having your character built around it is definitely going to help you, especially because we have an entire portion of the talent tree dedicated to this. Now, one important thing to remember is that the amount of rerolls you get is per lock, not per layer. So if you're thinking tactically, you're gonna have to risk it probably on a guess rather than using up all of your rerolls early on and kind of screwing you later down the road. Because if you do take a guess, you might get it right and boom, the lock is picked. That was amazing. But if you do get it wrong, there's obviously going to be consequences. It is called grit and glory, after all. And those consequences usually come in the form of tool damage. So your tools can be damaged over time when you're using them. And if the tools break whilst using the lock, that causes a jam, which means you have to restart the entire lock, which obviously is not going to be great if you're trying to get it done whilst running away from some goblins. Speaking of which, obviously this system is pretty intuitive and easy to learn, and it also makes lockpicking very dynamic and fun and interesting, but how does it interact with combat? How do you pick a lock in the middle of a fight? Well, everything I just said still applies. However, now you have to spend action points, AP, in order to do the rolls, including re-rolls. This means that just like in a real life situation, you might be a bit riskier, you might guess a bit sooner. And sure, you could just step away from the door and kill everyone and then lockpick later. But if it is time sensitive, if there is a reason the GM has told you you have to get through that door quickly and you can't just wait to kill everyone, then this makes the tension so much higher. And I promise you, when you're on that last layer and you've guessed wrong a bunch of times and you have one guess left and you're not sure which number it is and you guess, that is going to be so tense. And if it goes wrong, I mean, that is just going to be so heartbreaking, having to restart again and really see the time slipping away from you. But if you guess right, that celebration will be legendary. And finally, changing lockpicking to work like this rather than being one roll has, as I said, allowed us to build a very vast thief talent tree. I mean, in D&D, there aren't many things you can do to affect lockpicking. It's one roll, so advantage, maybe a bonus. It's quite simple. But this system has so many more axes that you're actually able to invest in that as a skill and become that master thief that always goes on heists. Speaking of which, if you want to run a heist campaign, I think you know that now it's time to try out Grit and Glory. I hope you enjoyed that video in all of its nerdy glory. But now is time to talk about the Kickstarter. It is really important. I can't stress this enough. As much work as me and the team have put into this game, it simply cannot become a reality without the backing of people like you. So if you can go and check it out in the description below, that would actually help us with getting these books printed and getting them shipped out to tables like yourself. In the meantime though, you know, once you've finished all of that and given all of your money to us, you might as well check out some of these two videos here.